Let's get right to it, dog. You know it's raw. Well, let me catch you if you're showing off. They wanted to get you, I hold it off. Thought he was solid, but told it off. Running the field with the underdogs. Don't want to get involved. I can admit it. I know what it's time and I'm tripping. I got every group. Niggas a fumble a bag. I get to the cash fast. Got a salute. I've been a hustler. Look how I'm coming up. You running your mouth, better run it up. I'm running this shit like a big dog. Living my movie, they pissed off. Pushing the law cause we in charge. They gon' play this in the synagogues. How do I feel? I'm feeling great. Bigger the problem, the bigger the plate. Making my move, that shit gotta wait. Ahead of my time, keep it in line. Put on their face. I just learned to keep it all to myself. Wait, a couple of niggas that hang with me, that'll bang for me. If I'm doing bad, never change on me.
We the salt of the earth. We the motherfucking underdogs. We underestimated. You understand what I'm saying?
I got tunnel vision. There's a bunch of ways I'm gonna get it. It's my way or the highway if you ain't fucking with it. Do what I say or go about your fucking business and take this money with you.
Hey, Shalom Israel. Yabashim Yahshua Thumb to the brothers, Yahweh Shemal and Thumb Bashim Yahshua to the sisters. I'm Priest Officer Parag holding down the Wednesday law class for ISUPK coming out of Arizona. If you're watching online, you can see at the very bottom of the screen, we got the class location right on the lower thirds. All right, 12416 North 28 Drive, Phoenix, Arizona, 85029. And we're in suite number 4. All right, right off of the corner of 28 Drive in Cactus. All right. We got classes every Tuesday through Friday at 7 p.m. And every Saturday we hold our Sabbath service at 11 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. All right, so with that being said, we're going to go ahead and jump into today's class. We're going to be talking about predestination in the Bible. Predestination in the Bible. All right. Let's understand first what predestination is. All right. Predestination, when you talk about it in a biblical sense, is the idea that the Most High has set everything in order. So meaning whatever will be, right? And the Most High has set it that way, and there's nothing that you could do to take it off of those tracks, to take it off of that timeline, right? Most High has set his steps the way that they're going to be set. Excuse my language. And there's nothing that nobody can do to throw the Most High off his tracks, and we have to understand that. That's why this class is going to be extremely important, because one of the main issues that we face, right, is that, especially when we come against Christianity, Christianity teaches that God changed his mind, all right, did away with the laws, and decided that although he made his promise for the children of Israel, he's now decided to include the other nations inside of that promise, all right? But of course, the Lord never made that change of mind. Matter of fact, Malachi 3:6 tells us what? That the Most High changes not, right? The Lord changes not, right? And why is that important? Because it helps us in the Israelite school of UPK to combat Christianity, to take the blindfold off of our brothers and sisters who have been blinded by Christianity and doctrine that has caused them to love their oppressor, all right? So we're going to talk about something. We're going to go all the way to the beginning in Genesis, the 21st chapter. And the way I like to explain this is the game is rigged. All right. The game is rigged. All right. Now, what do I mean by that? In a rigged game, or let's just say football, right? It could be the Jets versus the Steelers. All right. I'm just two random teams. I don't really watch football like that, but it could be two teams, Jets versus the Steelers. All right. If somebody bought off that game and it was predestinated that the Steelers were going to win that game, no matter what the Jets do, no matter what the Steelers do, the outcome is always going to be the Steelers are going to win, because the game is rigged. There's nothing that you can do to stop it. A better one that people might be able to understand is like wrestling, like WWE, because we all now have grown up and understand that those things are fake. All right. Every time John Cena won, it was because it was staged. Every time the Undertaker came back to life, it was because it was staged. Right. Oh, okay. And whenever he won or whenever he lost, it was designed to be that way by the game makers. Well, the Lord is the game maker. He's the one that has decided who's going to win this game. And he's decided that the Israelites are going to win this game called life. We're the ones that's going to succeed. We're the ones that, just like Deuteronomy, the 7th chapter says, we're going to end up on top. The other nations are going to have to be below us and serve us. And there's nothing that nobody could do about it. Now, that's why predestination is so important, because now it takes the blindfold off of you that Christianity has put on you to try and say, well, the Lord changed his mind and the other nations can now come into the fold. That's a lie. So we're going to find out that the Lord has always designed it to be this way. Let's get Genesis, the 21st chapter, and we're going to start at the 9th verse. We're going to go all the way back to Abraham. We could go back further, right? But with the time limit that we have, we're going to try to be as concise as possible while still driving home our point. So we're going to start off with Abraham. Let's get Genesis 21 and 9.
Look at Genesis chapter 21, verse 9. And Sarah saw the son of Hagar, the Egyptian, which she had born unto Abraham, mocking.
Now, this is the story of Abraham, and he had a wife and a concubine. His wife's name was Sarah, all right? And then he had a concubine, which was his wife's handmaid, named Hagar. Abraham went in unto Hagar. I'm just giving you a little bit of a backstory, right? Abraham went in unto Hagar to conceive a child because Sarah was barren. She was unable to have children, all right? And if you know anything about being a woman that would like to please her husband, she wanted to please her husband and give him a child, but she was unfortunately unable to. So she decided to give her handmaid to Abraham so that way he could have that child. All right. Hagar is an Egyptian. She's not of Abraham's family. Is a total heathen, right? Now, the son that she bore to Abraham, his name was called Ishmael. That's going to be important for us to understand as we continue to read. All right. But now Hagar, the Egyptian, the son of Hagar, which is Ishmael, was mocking, right? Let's keep going.
Verse 10. Wherefore she said unto Abraham, cast out this bondwoman and her son.
Now, Sarah, remember, she's the one that set this whole thing up, but now she sees that Hagar and her son are mocking her, right? And so she said, she's telling Abraham, hey, cast out this bondwoman and her son. Keep going.
My God. For the son of this bondwoman shall not be in heir with my son, even with Isaac.
Right. And along down the line, right? Abraham was able to conceive with Sarah. She was no longer barren, and she had a son named Isaac. Well, Isaac is the child of the promise. That's a spoiler alert, all right, because that's what this is gonna all end up being about. All right. Isaac is the child of the promise. And Sarah understands that. Okay. And so Sarah is saying, get rid of that woman and that boy, because I don't want them to be heirs alongside my son Isaac, because I know my son Isaac is a child of the promise. This is the son, the lineage that the Most High desires his chosen seed to go down through. Right? Keep going.
Okay. Verse 11. And the thing was very grievous in Abraham's sight because of his son.
Right. And so, but this is his son. Ishmael's still his son. So your wife is telling you, hey, get rid of your concubine and your flesh and blood son, because I don't want them to be heirs. That would be vexing to a man, because although even if now Abraham at this time didn't understand the plan of the Most High, but even if you did understand the plan, you still in your heart gonna be like, well, damn, that's my son. It's still my son. He may not be the child of the promise, but it's my son. So he was vexed about this, right? Keep going.
Okay. Verse 12. And God said unto Abraham, let it not be grievous in thy sight because of the lad, and because of thy bondwoman, and all that Sarah hath said unto thee, hearken unto her voice. For in Isaac shall thy seed be called.
For in Isaac shall thy seed be called. See, the Most High, give me Romans the 9th chapter, and we'll go back there so you can Genesis for me. But the Most High had to go unto Abraham in a vision and explain to him Don't be grieved about this. I understand that this is your son and you have an emotional attachment to him because that's your flesh and blood. However, don't be grieved about this, because in Isaac shall thy seed be called. Because remember, before all of this, the Most High made a promise to Abraham and said, I will make many nations out of you. You'll have plenty of children. You're going to have the chosen seed line of the Most High. And that's a promise that the Most High gave unto Abraham. So he had to remind him, look, I'm still going to give you, I'm gonna fulfill my promise that I delivered unto you, but it's not going to be through Ishmael. It's going to be through Isaac. So when Sarah's telling you, kick them the hell out of your house, just listen to her, because she's right. All right. Let's get Romans the 9th chapter and the 7th verse. Now we're going to be like Paul. Paul talks about this a lot. A lot of Christians will go to Paul to try to explain away the covenant. They'll try to make the covenant about other people, like about white people, about Egyptians like Hagar, about the Japanese, about anybody else. Because we say what? That it's just for Israel, it's just for blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. That's the covenant. But Christians will try to go to Paul and try to explain away the covenant unto other people. So that way everybody can be an Israelite now. You can be a spiritual Israelite. You can come into the fold. Well, we're going to go specifically to Paul's letters numerous times tonight to prove otherwise, because Christians do err not knowing the scriptures. Right. We're going to pull up all of the scriptures that's going to show Paul saying, no, this is not an all-inclusive covenant. This is only for Israel. Now, we just read it in the Old Testament. Somebody can try to come to us and say, well, that was the Old Testament. What about the New? That's why we're purposely going to go into the New Testament. Give me Romans 9 and 7.
Done. Book of Romans, chapter 9, verse 7. Neither, because they are the seed of Abraham, are they all children.
Neither, because they're the seed of Abraham, are they all children. Why? Well, we just read that Abraham had more than one child, right? But that doesn't mean that you are the children of the Most High, right? Keep reading.
Okay. But in Isaac shall thy seed be called.
So you can keep reading.
Okay.
But in Isaac shall thy seed be called, right? We just read that in the book of Genesis, right? In the book of Genesis, the 21st chapter, we just read Isaac. In Isaac shall thy seed be called. Paul is doubling down on what the Most High told unto Abraham, right? Keep going.
Okay. That is, they which are the children of the flesh, these are not the children of God.
Now, this is important because it says they which are the children of the flesh, they're not the children of God. I used this term earlier on purpose. Ishmael is Abraham's flesh and blood son. He is. But just because he's your flesh doesn't mean that you're the children of God. And that's what's important to understand. Like I said earlier, we could go all the way back to Abraham with this, because we could talk about Cain. Cain wasn't the child of God. Abel was. You understand?
Right.
And that's all throughout the Bible. That's a common denominator in all of the Bible, all of the stories, all of the main so-called characters of the Bible. There's always a chosen seed line. Right? Same thing with Jacob and Esau. We're gonna find that out in a minute, right? Take me to Galatians, the 4th chapter, real quick, because we're also gonna learn something else about Hagar. Remember, Sarah said, "Kick that broad Hagar and her son Ishmael out of the house. Get rid of them." Abraham, like, well, what the heck? Like, that's my no. The Lord came to him and said, no, listen to your wife. She's right, because in Isaac shall thy seed be called. There's something to be understood from that whole instance. And Paul is going to double down on it, and he's going to make it make sense. All right. Give me Galatians 4 and 22.
Okay. Galatians chapter 4, verse 22. For it is written that Abraham had two sons. The one by bondmaid.
The one by the bondmaid, which remember, that's Hagar, right? And that's Ishmael. That's that son. Go ahead.
The other by a free woman.
And the free woman was Sarah. And that child was Isaac, right? Go ahead.
But he who was of the bondwoman was born after the flesh.
But he who was of the bondwoman was born after the flesh. So Hagar is the bondwoman, right? Who's the child that she bore? Ishmael. Well, we just read that they which are the children of the flesh, these are not the children of God, right? He's doubling down on this in a totally different letter. This is the letter to the church of Galatia, right? And he's making this extremely clear. He's saying that that bondwoman, the child of that bondwoman was born after the flesh, right? So that can't be the child of God. Keep going.
But he of the free woman was by promise.
But the child that he had by the free woman, which was Sarah, that child was Isaac. That child was born by the promise. Keep going.
Verse 24. Verse 24.
Mm-hmm.
Which things are an allegory.
Which things are an allegory. Now, don't let nobody, it's a side note. Don't let nobody catch you up on this term, because some people that believe in like Egyptology and Kemet and atheists, they'll say these things. They'll say that the term allegory here means that this story never actually happened. That's what some people try to use this scripture to say. That's not what this is saying. What Paul is doing here by calling it an allegory, he's almost using it as a parable, because the meaning behind what happened with Abraham and Sarah is a lot deeper than what you just see on the surface. Like on the surface, it just seemed like, well, God said that you should have this child with this woman and get rid of the other child with that woman. Get rid of them. And that's it. And then the story goes on. And that's all you get out of it. Paul is trying to drive a point home. That's why he's calling it an allegory. He's using it as a parable to get a deeper understanding. He's going to break it down right now. Go ahead.
Okay. For these are the two covenants.
That's what he's trying to make everybody that he's writing to aware of. He's trying to make you understand that it's deeper than just putting away his bondwoman and putting away his son. This is a parable about about the two covenants. Keep going.
Okay. The one from the Mount Sinai,
mm-hmm.
which gendereth to bondage, which is Hagar.
Right. So there's one that gendereth to bondage, which makes you a slave, which is Hagar, because Hagar was a bondwoman. Right. She was a slave, right? Keep going.
Okay. Verse 25. For this Hagar is Mount Sinai in Arabia.
Uh-huh.
And answered to Jerusalem, which now is.
But they answer to Jerusalem, which now is. Keep going.
And is in bondage with her children.
Ishmael and the Ishmaelites are the slaves to the Israelites, to Isaac and his seed. That's what the whole point of that was. The reason why Ishmael had to be born of a bondwoman, of a slave, is because he's going to be a slave in the future. Him and all of the nations that are alongside him. Right? And the reason why Isaac had to be born by a free woman, which was Sarah, is because Isaac, down on through his seed line, through Jacob and the 12 tribes, are going to be the kings and priests on the earth. Right. And that's why this is extremely important for brothers and sisters to understand, because this parable explains to you the whole thing of the Bible. The entire Bible operates just like this. You think it just means, it's just a story in the Old Testament. Like you think Noah's Ark is just some story in the Old Testament. No, that's a parable for what's going to happen when America collapses. It's the same thing. This Bible has a common theme throughout the whole thing. And the deeper that you read into this Bible and get these understandings and these breakdowns, you'll start to realize that there's nothing nobody could tell you to try to take the promise away from you. Because it's all about Israel. That's always what it's been about. It's always been about redeeming Israel, putting Israel in a rightful place, which is on top of everybody else. That's why I just called Ishmael and that bondwoman a slave to the Israelites. Right? Keep going. Verse 26.
Verse 26. But Jerusalem, which is above, is free.
Jerusalem, which is above, which is the top nation, is free. Right? Go ahead.
Which is the mother of us all.
And Jerusalem is the mother of us all, which also this goes to tell you who Paul is writing to. You can always go here to tell anybody who Paul is writing to in the church of Galatia, because sometimes you'll get a Christian that'll go into the book of Galatians, and they'll try to say, well, yeah, he was talking to the Gentiles. Well, Galatians, the 4th chapter, the 26th verse tells us that Jerusalem is the mother of us all. He's talking to a specific group of people. Right. And that's why this is so important. Everything that Paul, we're going to keep going back and forth from the Old Testament to the New Testament, understanding that the Lord predestinated it to be this way. This is the way it's got to be, because there's nothing that you could do to stop it. Now, this had happened well over 1,000 years before Paul wrote this letter. This happened over 1,000 years before then, this story that he's talking about. And he's given the understanding to remind brothers and sisters that, hey, this Bible is all about you, right? But let's go back to Genesis real quick. Let's go back to Genesis 22. We'll start it from the top at Genesis 22.
Look at Genesis 22, verse 1. And it came to pass after these things that God did tempt Abraham and said unto him, Abraham. And he said, behold, here I am. And he said, take now thy son, thine only son Isaac, whom thou lovest.
So wait, he said, now this is, remember, this is after Ishmael was born and after Isaac was born. And Abraham had other sons and daughters. But the Most High, when he spoke to Abraham, he said, take now thy son, thine only son. Why did he call him his only son? Because this was the only child of Abraham's that actually mattered. Like, remember, Ishmael gets a blessing. Right. We read that throughout the Bible. Ishmael gets a blessing, right? He'll be a wild man, but he'll be made princes out of, right? Many princes. I think it says 7 princes or 12 princes, something like that, right? That's why them over there are rich, man. You go look at the Middle East, they look like they broke because they don't wear nothing. They just wear them cloths over their back, but they rich, man. They got a lot of money. That's why they got all them weapons. Got all that gold over there, all that oil. Look at Dubai. I mean, them cats is rich. They got a blessing, but that means nothing when it comes to the true blessing and the true inheritance, which it goes to the children of Israel. That's the most important thing. Right. And that's why when we read these things, we have to understand why the Most High is saying what he's saying. Many people have read this very same verse and just read it, never thought twice about it. But these things mean something. There's a reason why they're put in the Bible. There are a lot of other things that happened in times past that were not recorded in the Bible. People's day-to-day lives, they just didn't get put down in the Bible. The Lord put these things in here for a reason, because we're supposed to read these and get an understanding from them. All right. Give me Genesis 25. Skip ahead a couple chapters, right? Genesis the 25th chapter, and give me verse 20. Now we're gonna read a little bit here because just to get the context, I'm gonna try to get through it, but we want to get the context of this because it's gonna explain something to us about the promise. Give me Genesis 25 and 20.
I got the book of Genesis, chapter 25, verse 20. And Isaac was 40 years old when he took Rebekah to wife, the daughter of Bethuel, the Syrian of Padan Aram, the sister to Laban the Syrian. And Isaac entreated the Lord for his wife, because she was barren. And the Lord was entreated of him. Rebekah, his wife, conceived, and the children struggled together within her. And she said, if it be so, why am I thus? And she went to inquire of the Lord.
Now you see how this sister was barren, right? Just like what we read, what we talked about with Sarah, right? Abraham and Sarah was struggling to have a child. All right, but the Lord performed that miracle and made her to have a child. Same thing happened with Isaac and Rebekah. Rebekah was struggling to have a child. She was barren. What barren means, you literally cannot produce a child, right? But the Lord performed that miracle, right? And so within this miracle, this was explained to Isaac and Rebekah that she was going to give birth and continue on the line from Abraham on down to create this chosen seed line. But that's why we see here and say the children struggled together within her. And she said, if it be so, meaning if this is such a blessing, and she says, why am I thus? If this is such a blessing, why is this happening to me? Right? These twins are inside of her womb fighting, right? And that don't feel good. Maria's been pregnant several times, and when one baby gets to moving around in there, it's the whole equilibrium off. Just puts her down. Now imagine 2 babies inside of your belly fighting, tussling. That's tough, right? But there's a spiritual reason why that was happening, which we're going to read shortly, right? And so she's asking, if this is such a blessing, then why is this happening to me? This is the worst pregnancy ever. Keep going.
Okay. 23. And the Lord said unto her, 2 nations are in thy womb.
Now, most of us have read this before, right? This is the story of Jacob and Esau. 2 nations are inside of thy womb. Keep going.
And 2 manner of people shall be separated from thy bowels.
Although both of these children belong to both Isaac and Rebekah, they got the same chromosomes and genes and everything. These are 2 separate nations and 2 totally different manner of people, right? We got to remember that. Keep going.
Okay. And the one people shall be stronger than the other people.
Mm-hmm.
And the elder shall serve the younger.
And the elder shall serve the younger. Now, this is we gotta side note this as well. So lock it. The elder shall serve the younger. That's stupid, according to what everything else we know about the Bible. That don't make no kind of goddamn sense. Why am I saying that? Because in biblical tradition, who gets the inheritance? Who's the head in charge?
The older brother.
Right, the older brother. Your firstborn is remember, the scriptures say in the law, you're to offer your first or dedicate your firstborn son unto the Most High. That's always been what we have been accustomed to in our culture in the Bible. That's why I said this is stupid. It don't make no sense. Like, it doesn't. You think about it. The elder is going to serve the younger. That's ridiculous. That's why I said you have to understand the spiritual meaning behind all of these things, because if you look at it on the surface, you're just going to read the story and it'll just be like reading a storybook. But this Bible is not a storybook. This Bible is full of everything you need to understand about life and about yourself. But you won't be able to understand it at all if you don't read it with a spiritual lens. Take the Christianity off your eyes. You're not reading a goddamn storybook. That's why side note, that's why kids we don't got no kids classes in here. We don't send the kids to another room and learn about the Bible any differently, because there's only one way to teach the Bible. You understand? There's only one right way to teach the Bible, is what I should say. We're not teaching the kids that the Bible is some storybook with a bunch of fairy tales. All of these things are real and true. But you have to understand them. Otherwise, you will believe that they're fairy tales. And them same kids that you teaching these biblical stories as fairy tales, they're going to grow up and they're going to get high and smoke weed and not believe nothing about the Bible, because they're going to think the Bible is a fairy tale. As soon as they stop believing in Santa Claus, like you've also been teaching them, they're also going to stop believing in your white Jesus. They're going to stop believing in Noah and Abraham. All of those stories that you've given them, they're not going to believe in none of them, because they're going to think it was a fairy tale, just like the damn tooth fairy. Stop teaching your kids like this Bible is a fairy tale. This Bible is very real, and these stories are important for our brothers and sisters, especially our young brothers and sisters coming up, to understand. But let's keep reading, right? So now there's 2 nations in the womb, and these are 2 totally different manners of people, right? And the elder is going to serve the younger. Now that goes against all of the culture we know about the Bible, but we're going to understand why. Keep going.
Verse 24. And when her days to be delivered were fulfilled, behold, there were twins in her womb. And the first came out red, all over like in hairy garments.
So who's the firstborn? Esau, right? The one that came out with red all over like an hairy garment, and they called his name Esau. That was the firstborn. That's the elder that's going to serve the younger, right? Keep going.
Okay. They called his name Esau. And after that came his brother out. And his hand took hold on Esau's heel. And his hand took hold. Now, they've been fighting since inside the womb. And even outside of the womb, the first thing they did was fight each other. Right? And it said, read that part again. Okay. And after that came his brother out. And his hand took hold on Esau's heel. This is also spiritual. Remember, when we go back to Genesis, the 3rd chapter, we find out that the serpent was going to bite the heel of the woman, of Eve, right? That was signifying what's happening right now, right? It's talking about the consistent struggle between Jacob, which is the chosen people, and Esau, the people that the Lord hates, the only nation that the Lord decided does not deserve any mercy, and the only
only nation that the Lord has decided should not exist anymore.
Right.
That's the struggle between the two. You have the Most High's most favorite nation up against the Most High's most hated nation, right?
Right.
And so that's always been. And remember, when we apply what we saw in Genesis, the 3rd chapter, to this, it's something that has always happened. That's why I said there's a theme that goes along with this Bible. So let's keep reading. That's a lesson for another day.
And his name was called Jacob.
Mm-hmm.
And Isaac was 80 years old when she bare them.
Right. So Isaac was 80. What's that? 60 years, right? A score is 20. 3 score is 60, right? So he was 60 years old, right? So he was a pretty old man. Go ahead.
Verse 27. And the boys grew. And Esau was a cunning hunter, a man of the field.
Hey, and just something else we want. Once again, this is just another side note. But Esau was a cunning hunter. What was the serpent in Genesis, the 3rd chapter, called? He was called subtile, which is another word for cunning, sneaky, right?
Okay.
What is it also called? A serpent, a beast of the field. Well, what is Esau called? A man of the field, right? Because this is the same spirit consistent throughout the Bible. Keep going.
Okay. And Jacob was a plain man, dwelling in tents.
Mm-hmm. And the Bible is doing something. It's doing this on purpose. It's contrasting both of them so obviously to try to explain to you that these are two totally different people. Not only did it say that it's two manners of people inside of that woman's womb, not only that it would be two different nations, but it also goes down to the fact that they're two totally different types of people, personality-wise. One's a wild hunter, them damn sweaty lumberjacks going and cutting down trees, killing animals for fun and hanging them up on their wall. Jake just want to chill, man. We just want to kick back. You understand? We just want to kick back, man. If we go hunting, it's for food. We go camping, it's because we just want to kick back and camp.
Right.
We not like them at all. We don't cut down trees for fun. Them lumberjacks, they just like to cut down trees for fun. And we not like them, man. Yeah, test their strength and all them. I mean, it's just ridiculous. All right, let's keep reading.
Verse 28. And Isaac loved Esau because he did eat of his venison.
So I know it's making it seem like it's real simple, right? Isaac only loved Esau because he loved the way that Esau made that venison. But also we have to understand Esau in Isaac's mind, that's the child of the inheritance. Your firstborn child, once again, it's always been our custom, and it's in our laws, that your firstborn child is the child that you dedicate to the Lord. Right. So he loved Esau, rightfully so. Guess what? Same way that we saw Abraham loved Ishmael. He was vexed when Sarah said, put them away. Man, love his son. You understand? Right. Keep reading.
Okay. But Rebecca loved Jacob.
And Rebecca, this whole thing, it's a theme just with what we've read so far. Like Abraham and Sarah knew more than Abraham. You understand? Like we don't never teach that women are just these stupid idiots that don't know nothing. Sometimes your wife could know more than you. And that was very, very, very accurate when it came to Abraham and Sarah, because Abraham didn't want to get rid of the bondwoman and Ishmael. Sarah told him to do it. The Lord had to come to him in a vision and say, hey, listen to her. Listen to your wife. She's correct and you're wrong. Put them away. Don't be vexed about the situation. Just like sometimes the same thing come down to his son Isaac. Isaac think that Esau should be the one to get the promise, right? Because he's the firstborn. Right. Rebecca, nah, she loved Jacob. Right. But that's because she knew something that Isaac didn't know. Right? Keep going.
Okay. Verse 29. And Jacob saw pottage, and Esau came from the field, and he was faint. Mm-hmm. And Esau said to Jacob, feed me, I pray thee, with the same red pottage, for I am faint. Therefore was his name called Edom. Mm-hmm.
He said, I'm faint. So he came from hunting all day. He didn't, for some reason, didn't bring no water, no food with him. So he come back to the campgrounds, or the house, or whatever you want to call it, where his family was. And he saw Jacob. He was making some pottage. All right, making a stew. All right. Well, he had just started making the stew, threw some of that meat in there, but it was still uncooked. And so, but he said, feed me with that same red pottage, because he didn't want to wait no longer. He wanted to get to it right away, because of course, as mighty as our oppressor and these Edomites believe that they are and try to come off as, they're actually very weak mentally, right?
Right.
And so that's why he couldn't handle being hungry. And so he said, I'm not even gonna wait for this food to cook. Give me that same red pottage. He said, for I am faint. He said he was very tired, right? Therefore was his name called Edom. Edom, Adawam, one of the definitions of Adawam is wasted away. And that's where he gets that name Edom from. Remember, Esau is his name, right? But another name that was given to him was Edom because of this very story, right? Keep going.
Verse 31. And Jacob said, sell me this day thy birthright.
Now, this was organized by the Lord. Jacob said, sell me your birthright. The birthright is what we've been talking about. It's the fact that the firstborn child, the firstborn son, gets the inheritance. The birthright comes with the promise. It comes with the inheritance, which means all of the money, all of the things that belong to your father and your mother, you get, because that's your birthright now. Well, he's saying to Esau, sell me your birthright, and I'll give you this pottage. Right? Keep going.
And Esau, verse 32. And Esau said, behold, I am at the point to die. And what profit shall this birthright do to me?
This is why the Bible says that Esau despised his birthright, because he didn't care about it at all. He cared about the fact that he was hungry more than he cared about the thing that mattered the most to the Most High, which was that birthright, which was that promise. But once again, this was prophesied. Didn't the prophecy from the Lord say that the elder was going to serve the younger?
Right.
This had to happen. It had to happen one way or the other. This birthright had to go to Jacob because he was the younger, and Esau has to serve Jacob. So one way or the other, that birthright was going to have to go to Jacob. This was all planned. That's why I say this is Predestination in the Bible. The Lord had ordered these things, and there's nothing nobody could do to stop it. The Lord made Esau go out to that damn field, go hunting, right? Swinging that axe and shooting them arrows and all of whatever the hell he was doing, being wild as hell. Didn't bring no goddamn water with him. Didn't bring no snacks or no food with him. Just so he could come back and be tired as hell. He made Jacob. Had the idea, hey, I'm about to make some pottage. It's going to smell real good too. Right?
Right. And
he ordered it that way, so that way Esau would come back just at the right time. But he feel like he about to die. He about to keel over. The Lord, he orchestrated this, man. Just the same way that the Most High put each one of them stars in the sky. The same way when you go into Genesis, the 1st chapter, when he put a firmament to separate the waters from above from the water from below. The same way he set the sun in the sky, the moon in the sky. The same way he created all of the universe. He did those things with a purpose. Well, the same way he did that is the way that he orchestrated this whole situation with the promise. There's a reason for this, man. Let's keep reading.
Verse 33. And Jacob said, swear to me this day. And he swore unto him. And he sold his birthright unto Jacob.
And he sold his birthright. That's it. Keep going.
Verse 34. Then Jacob gave Esau bread and pottage of lentils. And he did eat and drink and rose up and went his way. Thus Esau despised his birthright.
Esau despised his birthright. What kind of man are you? Give me Hebrews the 12th chapter. What kind of man are you that you so goddamn weak mentally? I'm not talking about physically. There's some strong oppressors out here. I'm talking about so weak mentally that you would sell the one thing that matters to the Lord for food. That's why the Bible said that he despised his birthright, man. You got to hate your goddamn birthright. And that's why the Lord hates Esau for this reason and many others. But this is a proof. Remember, when we go into the New Testament, it says that there are vessels that were created for destruction, right? And that's who Esau is. Esau was created for destruction. He was created to be destroyed.
Right.
He was created to prove a point. We see that all throughout the Bible. And that's why I said this predestination thing isn't as ridiculous as some people think. It's not like the Most High has got puppet strings and he's just that's not the point of predestination. The Lord already knows what's going to happen. That's why we teach in the school that there's no such thing as free will. We don't teach that there's free will. Why? Because that doesn't mean that, like, for instance, if I get up out of this chair right now, it wasn't me that did it. But when we say free will, we mean the Lord gave you two options. You either can serve the Most High and live, or you can disobey the Most High and die. That's it. And eventually, what the Lord is going to have happen is going to have happen no matter what. If the Lord prophesied that all the nations were going to go into servitude under the Israelites, that's going to happen. There's nothing you could do about it. If you was born a white person, ain't nothing you could do about it. If you was born an Edomite, if you was born an Elamite, if you was born an Ishmaelite, any of the other nations, you was born that way. Ain't nothing you could do about it. But the Lord is still going to make you be a subservient unto the Israelites. There's nothing you could do about it. That's predestination. You can, like, we're going to read, Esau sought repentance with tears, and there's nothing he could do to get repentance. Nothing. Like, when he sold that birthright, we're going to read about it, right? I'm giving y'all a bit of a spoiler, but when he sold his birthright, at the time, he didn't give a damn about it. But when it was time for him to receive that blessing from Isaac for his birthright, and he couldn't get it because he already gave it to Isaac, to Jacob, he started crying. He realized how terrible of a mistake he made, and he cried and begged and pleaded. Isaac was like, hey, man, nothing I could do now. Can't repent. You understand? There's nothing that you could do. That's a terrible feeling. Imagine knowing that your people are going into servitude, harsh bondage, and there's nothing you could do about it. You can't donate $1 billion to the Israelite school of UPK and get saved. No, you should do it anyway, but it's not going to save you. I hate to break it to you, but that's the way the Lord has predestinated this thing. Let's keep getting some more, right? Give me Hebrews 12 and 16.
I got the book of Hebrews, chapter 12, verse 16. Lest there be any fornicator or profane person as Esau, who for one morsel of meat sold his birthright.
For a morsel of meat sold his birthright. This is a bad reputation to have throughout the Bible. This is talked about. Keep going.
I got verse 17. For ye know how that afterward, when he would have inherited the blessing.
When he would have inherited the blessing, go ahead.
He was rejected.
He was rejected. Keep going.
For he found no place of repentance.
He found no place of repentance. Go ahead.
Though he sought it carefully with tears.
He sought it carefully with tears. Once he realized how terrible of a mistake he made, we're about to read it. Go back to Genesis, the 27th chapter. Okay. Once he realized how terrible of a mistake he had made, it was too late. But was it really Esau's fault? No, the Lord said that this was going to happen. It had to happen because the scriptures say that the Lord's word will not return unto him void. What the Lord said is going to happen must come to pass. There's nothing you could do to stop it. Right? The Lord prophesied the First World War, the Second World War. Those two came to pass. We're on the brink of the Third World War. That must come to pass. That's why we believe in it so heavily, because we've seen all of the prophecies that have happened in the past. The Lord said these things was going to happen, and they happened. So all of the prophecies that are yet to come to pass, like people think that we're ridiculous for thinking that chariots are going to come out the sky and break us loose from this kingdom. People think we're stupid for thinking that. Well, guess what? The Lord prophesied the First World War, the Second World War. Those came to pass. You understand? The Lord prophesied chattel slavery for black people in America. The Lord prophesied that. He prophesied that we were going to come to America on slave ships and we were going to be sold as bondmen and bondwomen. He prophesied that. You understand? And that's what's important for us to remember, is that the Lord has set these things into place. It was nothing that we was going to be able to do to stop it. All right. And remember, one of many examples, right? We got a whole lot of other examples in this Bible. Let's read about this. Give me Genesis 27, 6.
Look at Genesis chapter 27, verse 6. Rebekah spake unto Jacob her son, saying, Behold, I heard thy father speak unto Esau thy brother, saying, bring me venison and make me savory meat that I may eat.
So now this is just, I'm gonna give y'all a little bit of context, right? Rebecca is going to trick her husband. All right. This is at a time Isaac was an old man. All right. These brothers is old now, right? Jacob and Esau, they're older now. I think they're about 20 or so, which means that Isaac is around 80 or 90 years old. I think it gives us his age as we read on, but he's old, he's up in age, his eyes are grown dim, and he's getting ready to pass away. What's going on, brother? What's going on? He's getting ready to pass away, right? So now at this time, he's getting ready to put in his blessing for the child that's supposed to receive that birthright, right?
Right.
But once again, Rebecca understands, because she was given this revelation from the Most High, that Jacob is the one that is supposed to receive that blessing. All right. But that, of course, cannot happen without some intervening. All right. So now Rebecca is telling Jacob the plan that she came up with. Go ahead. Give me verse 8. Give me verse 8.
Verse 8. Verse 8.
It's like, where you at?
This is Genesis 27 and verse 8.
Genesis chapter 27 and verse 8. Now, therefore, my son, obey my voice according to that which I command thee. Go now to the flock and fetch me from thence 2 good kids of the goats. And I will make them savory meat for thy father, such as he loved it.
Now remember, Isaac loved Esau because of the venison, right? That was something. That's why the Bible told us that a little bit earlier, so we could have some context and understanding, right? So he loved the way that Esau made that venison. Jacob don't make that venison like that, but his wife knows how to, right? Isaac's wife, Rebecca, understands how to make it the way he likes it. So his father, Isaac, is asking for this venison that he loves so much, expecting Esau to come and bring it to him, right? But the plan that Rebecca has come up with is she's going to make the venison, and because Isaac can't see, he's not going to be able to tell whether it's Jacob or Esau. So she's going to make the venison, give it to Jacob, and Jacob is going to deliver it unto his father, and he's going to receive the blessing. That's the way that this is going to go, right? That's her plan. Go ahead.
Now, verse 10. And thou shalt bring it to thy father, that he may eat, and that he may bless thee before his death.
Give me verse 11.
And Jacob said to Rebekah's mother, behold, Esau, my brother, is a hairy man, and I am a smooth man.
Right, and that's what we read in Genesis the 25th chapter, right? Keep reading.
I got it. Verse 12. My father, peradventure, will fill me, and I shall seem to him as a deceiver. And
so he thinking this plan can't work. He's like, nah, it's too many variables here. I can't go through with this because he's gonna find me out, and then he's gonna curse me instead of blessing me. Right? Go ahead.
My God. And I shall bring a curse upon me and not a blessing. Verse 13. And his brother said unto him, upon me be thy curse, my son. Oh, only obey my voice and go fetch me them.
Yeah, she like, don't worry about that, right? Because I'll take out the curse that you talking about might happen to you. I'll take it. Don't worry about it. Just do what the hell I said, right? Because she understands what has to be done, right? She understands that the Lord's will has to be done. So she's going to make it happen. And this is a wise sister, right? Keep going. Give me verse 19.
Verse 19. And Jacob said unto his father, I am Esau, thy firstborn. I have done according as thou badest me. Arise, I pray thee, sit and eat of my venison, that thy soul may bless me. Verse 20. And Isaac said unto his son, how is it that thou hast found it so quickly, my son? And he said, because the Lord thy God brought it to me.
Now this is something that we have to understand out of this, right? Because remember, he was expecting Esau to bring this plate to him, right? And so he still thinks that it's Esau right now. He's blind, he can't see, so he still thinks it's Esau, right? But he's asking, where did this plate come from? How did you get this food cooked so fast? And what his response was is that the Lord delivered it to me. The Lord brought it to me. Why did he say that? Because all of this is because the Lord wanted it to be this way, right? The same way when we read about it earlier, right? When Abraham was told to sacrifice his only son Isaac, remember, Isaac was like, I see the wood for the offering. I see, what we need, right? But I don't see the lamb that was supposed to be offering, right? Because he was going to be the one that was in the offering, right? What did Abraham say? He said, the Lord will provide us a lamb. That was spiritual in the same sense, right? The same way the Lord provided this venison is because the Lord is making these things happen every step of the way. Ain't nothing you can do to change it, right? What's happening right here shouldn't have worked. I'm telling y'all, this should not have worked. But the Lord will make even the most ridiculous plan come to fruition because he's trying to accomplish what he has to accomplish, right? Let's keep reading.
Okay. Verse 21. And Isaac said unto Jacob, come near, I pray thee, that I may feel thee, my son, whether thou be my very son Esau or not.
See, and this is why I say this plan should not have worked, because Isaac was even suspicious. Nobody needs to look. I don't care if you're blind or not. If you're talking to your son, you're talking to your son. But Isaac say, I need you to come here and let me feel your arm because I need to know whether or not you're Esau. That's why his mom had him put on that coat, right? Because she knew that he was going to be suspicious. And this is a big deal. When you're giving your blessing to your firstborn son, that's important because that's not just a word of mouth type of thing. It's spiritual. The Lord is going to be dealing with that, right? So the blessing that you're going to get comes from the Most High, not just from that man, right? Because if it was just up to Isaac, he would have made sure it was Esau. But because the Lord had his hand in this, he had to make sure that it was going to be Jacob, right? Keep going.
Verse 22. And Jacob went near unto Isaac his father, and he felt him and said, the voice is Jacob's voice, but the hands are the hands of Esau. Mm-hmm. And he discerned him not, because his hands were hairy, as his brother Esau's hands. So he blessed him.
Now, give me Romans the 9th chapter. Let's go to Romans the 9th chapter in the New Testament. All right. This is something that you're going to have to understand that the way that the Most High operates at the time, they just look, especially when we go into the Old Testament, it just looks like stories, right? We're just reading a story about something. And this sounds ridiculous. That's why a lot of people take the Bible for fake, because this sounds ridiculous. Like I said, that plan shouldn't have worked. But when the Lord has his hand in it, he can make anything happen. All right. So we're going to read Romans the 9th chapter. Let's now we was in Romans 9 earlier, but we're going to read on a little bit. So let's read Romans 9 and 11.
God, book of Romans, chapter 9, verse 11. For the children being not yet born, neither having done any good or evil.
So remember, before the children was born, the Most High made these prophecies. He said that there was going to be two different nations in the womb of Rebekah, right? He said there were going to be two manner of people. He said that the elder was going to serve the younger. This was before they was even born, and they had never done no good or evil, right? We teach that child inside of your womb don't deserve death. We teach against abortion, right? Because we teach that a child inside of your womb is an innocent baby. So them children never did nothing to nobody, Jacob or Esau, when they was inside of their mother's belly, right? But it doesn't have nothing to do with that. That doesn't matter. Why? Keep going.
For the children being not yet born, neither having done any good or evil, that the purpose of God, according to election, might stand.
That's the important part, that the purpose of God, according to election, might stand. It's about who the Lord has elected to do what. The Lord elected Esau, the white man, to be the devil on the face of this planet. And he elected the Black, Hispanic, and Native American, Jacob, right, the 12 tribes of Israel, to be the kings and priests on the face of this planet. Right. And it was nothing to do with whether they had done good or evil. Blacks and Hispanics have done a lot of terrible things in our lifetimes. You understand? Terrible things, right? We treat each other absolutely terrible. Even when you go throughout this Bible, you find that we have disobeyed the Most High more times than not. However, that ain't got nothing to do with it. The Lord has made an election. He elected us to be his priests. He elected us to be his chosen people, right? And he elected Esau to be the goddamn devil. Keep reading.
Right. My sin, but not of works, but him that called it. Verse 12.
Not of works. That's important. Read that part again.
Not of works, but of him that called it.
Not of works. It wasn't nothing that they could. Remember, we just read in the book of Hebrews that Esau sought repentance carefully with tears, but it wasn't nothing he could do about it. Nothing he could do to change the outcome that the Most High put him in, right? It says, but of him that called it. That's the Most High. The Most High called this thing to be the way that it is. And there's nothing nobody could do to change it. Keep reading. Give me 12.
I got verse 12. It was said unto her, the elder shall serve the younger.
Mm-hmm.
As it is written, Jacob have I loved, but Esau have I hated.
Right, and that's written throughout the Bible. Read that in the book of Malachi. Jacob has the Most High love, which is the blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, and Esau as he hated, which is the so-called Caucasian race. He has hated one group of people and loved the other, and that's the way that this Bible teaches us. That's why I said, that's why we had to go back into the book of Genesis and read these things. See, when you go through this Bible, sometimes people read it like a storybook, but this isn't a storybook. This is our family history. All right. And it explains the spirituality behind serving the Most High and how there's nothing you can do to get around what the Most High intends for you. There's nothing you can do about it. Right. Let's keep reading.
Now, done. Verse 13. What shall we say then? Is there unrighteousness with God?
Now, does that make God unrighteous because Esau he has hated, but Jacob has he loved? Does that make the Most High unrighteous? Paul is asking this question. Go ahead.
God forbid.
God forbid. No, the Lord is not unrighteous because he has chosen a group of people to love and another group of people to hate. Remember, the Lord created Esau for a specific purpose. That's that vessel that's fitted for destruction. That's what we read about. He created them to be servants, to be hated. And he created Jacob to be loved and to be the ones that are getting served. Go ahead, yes, sir.
God, so if I could ask a question, right? Could you, like, we think about predestination, could you liken it, like, in a allegory type of way to, like, a comic book, right? Like a storybook, where, like, there's characters that are made for the story. There's always the evil character that's always there to be evil and to be destroyed at the end of the story.
Yeah.
It's like everybody's great story, knowing that this person's evil, he needs to be destroyed. That's kind of like the role that Esau kind of plays here. It's like, we like everything's kind of the way the Most High says. Esau is just that character that's been made to at the end to be dealt with and to be gotten rid of. Right,
and part of the vessel that's accurate. Now, part of the reason why the Bible calls him a vessel fitted for destruction and a vessel fitted for wrath is because he's also used as a punishing tool for us. The people that have enslaved us and treated us so terribly for the past 500 years is that group of people. The Lord needed a group of people to, when we go into Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter, and it gives us the curses for not following the Lord, it says that your enemy will get up very high above you and will persecute you if you don't keep these laws, statutes, and commandments. So what does that mean? If we don't keep the laws, statutes, and commandments, we need somebody to punish us. The Lord has to have a physical arm that will punish us. Well, that's who he created for that, right? He's not going to create somebody that he loves to persecute his chosen people. He's not going to do that. That's why Esau had to be, and it's not even just what we've experienced in the past 500 years. Biblically, Esau has been a terrible people unto us, right?
Right.
When you go into the book of Obadiah, you find out that many battles that Israel was involved in, Esau joined the other side just to terrorize us.
Right.
Like it's been since the womb. Right. They was fighting in the womb. On the way out of the womb, they fighting. You understand? Growing up fighting. And then when each one of them become their own nation, right? You had the dukes of Edom and then you had the kings of Israel. They was fighting as well. Listen, Saul was tasked with destroying all of the Amalekites. That's the grandson of Esau. Those are Edomites. That's all throughout the Bible. So what I'm telling you is that this is something that the Lord has made, not just from what we've experienced in the last 500 years, but all throughout the Bible. It goes perfectly in order with the Lord, whether he wanted these steps to be ordered. Right? Give me verse 15.
Now done. Verse 15. For he said to Moses, I will have mercy on whom I will have mercy. Mm-hmm. Now I have compassion on whom I will have compassion.
Right. And so the Lord said, this is why that question had to be asked, right? Is there unrighteousness with the Most High? God forbid, because he said unto Moses, I'm going to have mercy on whom I'm going to have mercy, and I'll have compassion on whom I will have compassion. The Lord gets to choose. This is his. Remember what I said earlier. The game is rigged, right? So this is his game. We just living in it. You understand? We playing our part. Give me verse 29. It's like a 22. Like it.
I got verse 22. What if God, willing to show his wrath and to make his power known, endured with much long suffering the vessels of wrath fitted to destruction?
Remember, that's who Esau is. That's what I've been mentioning. Right. The vessels of wrath fitted to destruction is the Edomites. Now, what if God, it's a good question. What if God, willing to show his wrath and to make his power known, endure with much long suffering those same vessels of destruction? Right? What's the long suffering that the Most High had to endure with the Edomites?
Yeah, it's we've been doing this for the last 400 years. You know what I'm saying?
The last 2,500 years.
Yeah.
Right? The Lord has had to endure much long suffering by watching these nations come up against his chosen people. The Lord calls Israel the apple of his eye. Think about that. Like the most important thing to the Most High God is us out of all of his creation. And he has to watch these other nations. And he knows, he calls them spittle. We'll read that. Matter of fact, if you could pull that for me, 2nd Ezra, the 6th chapter, the 54th verse. The people that the Lord hates, he has to watch them destroy his favorite creation. He's endured much long suffering. You understand? Let's read that. Give me 2nd Ezra 6, and let's read verse 54.
Book of Esdras, book of 2nd Esdras in the Apocrypha, chapter 6, verse 54. And after these, Adam also, whom thou madest Lord of all thy creatures, of him come we all.
Right, and this is Ezra speaking to one of the angels of the Lord, and he's saying, we all come from Adam. We understand this. Ezra's having a back and forth with this angel, getting understanding as to why the Most High operates the way he does. And he's saying, yeah, like the Most High made Adam Lord over every creature. We read that in Genesis, the 1st chapter, right? Of him come us all, meaning we all come from Adam. That's where our family line, if you go far back enough, you'll find out that that's where we come from, right? But keep reading.
Okay. And the people also whom thou hast chosen.
And out of that same group of people, out of that same lineage, like I said, every nation can go back to Adam, right? Out of all of those people, there's a group of people who the Most High has chose, right? Go ahead.
Verse 55. All of this have I spoken before thee, O Lord, because thou madest the world for our sakes.
This is also another understanding of predestination. The Lord made every nation of people, every group of people that you see on the face of this planet. The Lord has created all of them, right?
Right.
But Ezra understands, as he's talking to this angel of the Lord, that the Most High created the world for our sakes. That goes back to what I was talking about earlier, right? With the fact that the Lord had made it, even though Esau was the firstborn and is supposed to rightfully so get the birthright, he prophesied and made it happen that Jacob was going to get the birthright, because nothing trumps the Most High's plan. And so because Jacob got the birthright, he went on to be the 12 tribes of Israel and are the people that the Most High said are going to inherit the entire earth. Now we read in the book of 2nd Ezra, the 6th chapter, that the Lord always intended it to be that way, because he created when you go into Genesis, the 1st chapter, and it says that he created the earth, that was when he created the earth for our sakes. That's what Ezra is talking about, right? Keep going.
Verse 56. As for the other people.
Now this is for the other people, right? The other people, not the chosen people, but the other people. Go ahead.
Which also come of Adam.
Right, the rest of the people that also come from Adam. Go ahead.
Thou hast said that they are nothing.
Thou hast said that they are what?
Nothing.
The Most High said that these other nations that also come out of Adam are nothing. Okay?
but be like unto spittle.
Like spittle. Like if you spit on the ground and you look at it and you don't want to touch it because it's disgusting and nasty, that's what spittle is. And the Lord looks at the other nations like that. He looks at them like he don't even want to touch them with a 10-foot pole. Keep going.
And has likened the abundance of them unto a drop that falleth from a vessel.
He likened the abundance of them as to a drop that falleth from a vessel. A vessel is like a cup, right? I got this tea in this cup. You know, maybe when I go to take a drink, a little bit of it might fall out, a drop of it fall out. I might get some tissue and wipe it up. I don't care about it though, right? Like how people say we don't cry over spilled milk.
Right.
You don't give a damn about that, man. You just wipe it up. You go on about your day. But that's because the Lord don't care about the other nations. And that's what the Bible is always trying to convey to you. The Bible is always trying to convey that the Lord don't care about anybody else other than the apple of his eye, which are the children of Israel. That's the whole point of the Bible. People always talk about the gospel. You know, that's what the gospel is. The gospel is literally the fact that the children of Israel will come up out of the dirt, rise up above the other nations, come up out of the chains, come up out of the storehouses, and they will become the top people on the face of this planet and rule over the nations. That's literally the gospel when you read it in Isaiah the 60th chapter. That's the gospel, right? And so, once again, all of that is predestined by the Most High. No matter what you do, you can't change that. Just like how Esau tried to find repentance but couldn't find it, though he sought it carefully with tears, there's nothing that you could do, I could do, nobody could do to stop what the Most High has planned. So when we say these things, a lot of people get upset. And what do we always say? It's not me saying it. Like if you come up to us on the street while we're teaching these things on the street corner, right? And you get upset with us and say we're a bunch of pieces of garbage because you guys teach this, this, and this. We always tell them, look, it ain't me teaching this. I'm just reading the Bible. Right. Because that's all we do. All we're doing is reading the Bible. And we're just showing you something that you've never read in this Bible. Because once again, you have that blindfold over your face, thinking that I can read this damn Bible like a storybook, not understanding that these things mean something. The story about Isaac and Rebekah means something. The story about Jacob and Esau means something. The story about Noah's Ark means something. The story about Cain and Abel means something. The story about what happened with the serpent in the garden with Eve means something. But you just have to be able to understand that. That's why it's always important to get taught these things, because otherwise you end up like so many other people that don't understand the Bible. And that's a true detriment, not being able to understand your family history. Let's read Romans 8th chapter. So we'll go back to the book of Romans and the 8th chapter. All right. We'll go back to Romans the 8th chapter. We're gonna be wrapping up shortly. About another 15 minutes or so. All right. We're going to read Romans, the 8th chapter, the 29th verse. Remember, I'm staying in the New Testament and in Paul's letters on purpose because a lot of people think that these things are only found in the Old Testament. Like there's some sort of difference between the God of the Old Testament and the God of the New Testament. It's the same God. All right. And I'm doing it this way so that way brothers and sisters can understand that there is no difference and that you shouldn't allow people to lie to you about this Bible. So give me Romans, the 8th chapter, the 29th verse.
Book of Romans chapter 8, verse 29. For whom he did foreknow, he also did predestinate to be conformed to the image of his son, that he might be the firstborn among many brethren.
Right. So it says he also did predestinate to be conformed to the image of his son. The Lord, now I wanted to use this scripture because it uses the term that we've been talking about the whole time, which is predestinate, right? The root of predestinate is destiny, right? Anybody heard that word before? The term destiny means it's bound to happen, right? Predestinate means it was already planned that this was going to be bound to happen. It's almost like an oxymoron to predestinate something, because if it was destiny, it means it was going to happen anyway. But to predestinate, it means that it was planned long before, right? Remember, the Lord has set these things in order from the beginning of time. He knew he was going to have a chosen. Remember, when the Lord chose Adam, he picked him out of a group of people. He picked Adam out of everybody that he had created on the 6th day. On the 7th day, he blew that breath of life into Adam, gave him his laws, statutes, and commandments, and gave him a wife from his family, right? And out of Adam had more than just one son. Remember, the first two children that they had was Abel and Cain. Well, Cain we can read throughout the Bible, not just in Genesis, the 4th chapter, right? But we can read throughout the Bible that Cain was the son of the damn devil, meaning that he had the spirit of our oppressor, the same spirit of the serpent in that garden, right? Abel was somebody that was blessed by the Most High and that was willing to serve the Lord by giving an offering of the best of his kind. But of course, Cain being the devil, just like he is today, our oppressor, Esau, right? He murdered Abel. And Cain was sent off to go find a wife in another land and, do whatever the hell he wanted to do. And the Lord the Lord gave Adam another child, Seth. Down through Seth, you have Noah. Down through Noah, you have Shem. Down through Shem, you have Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, down to the 12 tribes. But since the beginning of time, the Lord knew how he wanted his seed line to be established. That's my point. All right. So now this is talking about Christ, right? But give me verse 30.
Verse 30. Moreover, whom he did predestinate, them he also called.
So now this is talking about a specific group of people. This is talking about the Israelites, right? Moreover, whom he did predestinate, right? Remember, we just read in 2nd Ezra, the 6th chapter, there was a predestination for the children of Israel, right? And that predestination was that the Lord created the world for our sakes and the other nations to be servants unto us. Now it says, moreover, whom he did predestinate, them he also called, right? In Romans the 9th chapter, we see who was the calling for the children of Israel, right? Keep reading.
And whom he called, them he also justified. Whom he justified, them he also glorified.
Right, and that's what this is talking about, the children of Israel. He made it this way. Keep reading. This is the important part. Give me verse 31.
I got verse 31. What shall we say to these things? If God be for us, who can be against us?
Read that part again.
If God be for us, who can be against us?
That's predestination 101. If God be for us, who can be against us? There's nothing I keep saying this because I want to drill it into everybody's head. There's absolutely nothing you can do to go against the plan that the Most High has designed. Give me Ephesians, the 1st chapter, right? Yeah. If God be for us, who can be against us? If the Lord chose the children of Israel, there's nothing you can do to change the Most High's mind and have him choose somebody else, right? Your Christian pastors would have you to believe that the Lord extended his promise to the other nations, and now you can be a so-called spiritual Israelite. Well, that's not true. And this is another point that we have to make from this, right? If God be with us, who can be against us? Well, there's nothing. We're in the land of our captivity right now, in this land called America. We've been here for 400-500 years, and it would seem to you like every nation that lives here is against you, right? Esau is certainly against you. The white man puts you down every way he can, no matter who you are. If you're Black, Hispanic, or Native American, he's putting you down. Well, right. They're against us, but guess what? God is with us. So what does this mean when we talk about it from a predestination standpoint? What this means is it doesn't matter how evil our oppressor is to us. It doesn't matter how much they try to brainwash us into loving them. It doesn't matter if they try to give us their religion. None of that matters because the Lord is with us. So that means what the Lord said is going to happen to America, that is going to turn into a lake of fire with thermonuclear destruction. That's going to happen. So you can be against us all you want to, but it's not going to end in your favor. It's going to end in our favor because we believe in these prophecies because the Lord that we serve has designed it to be this way, and there's nothing you can do to stop it. They're trying to stop, like, the reason why, like, your Kanye West get canceled, right, so-called, or your other entertainers, right, they try to say the Jewish man is not the real Jew, right? Those people in Israel, they're not the real Jews, right? That's what they say. And then they get shut down get billions of dollars taken from them. Kanye West lost his Adidas deal. Anybody that speaks out against these types of things, right? They get completely cut off from all of everything that they have. They lose everything, right? Nick Cannon, what happened to him? You understand? He got cut off. They threatened to take Wild 'N Out from him. That was his main source of income, right? They threatened to take all of his money and everything from him. Why? Because he said that the people that call themselves Jews are not actually Jews. But see, our oppressor, by threatening to take those things away from us, or excuse me, take those things away from him, put him in a position where, well, damn, I guess I can't speak the truth no. Commander Joe Yohana just said this when he was interviewed by Tommy G. He said, well, as long as you shut the hell up, you can be successful in America. But as soon as you speak out against the injustices and the wrongdoings of these people, you lose everything, right? Well, that's our oppressor frantically trying to stop the truth from getting out. Like the oppressor doesn't want the truth to come out that blacks and Hispanics are the Israelites according to the Bible. Because if that truth does get out, black people in America will stop killing each other. Hispanics in America will stop killing each other. There will be no more broken households. You understand? Like life for the oppressor would change dramatically if black and Hispanic people understood who they really were. Because now we'll understand who our enemy is. Now we'll understand why our families have been broken up, why we grew up without a father, why our mother was on crack, why our brothers and sisters, why our brothers ended up in the penitentiary. Understand why we ended up smoking weed when we were 12 years old. All of these things, we'll start to understand that, damn, all of this is because the white man is the devil. Maybe we should separate from him. They don't want that to happen because that is one step closer to us understanding who we truly are according to the Bible.
Right.
And that's important, right? But the problem is, it ain't nothing they could do to stop it. Nothing. They could try all they want to, but there's nothing that you could do to stop what's coming to America.
Right.
All right, let's read it. Let me get Ephesians the first chapter, and give me the fourth verse.
Ephesians 1:4.
Okay.
The book of Ephesians, chapter 1, verse 4. According as he hath chosen us in him before the foundation of the world.
Wait a second. See, now this is why I keep having to bring these things out, because a lot of people don't realize that this is in the Bible. Now, the church of Ephesus, if you read the first verse, it's Paul writing to the saints. Now, the saints, when you go into Psalms 50 and 5, it says that the saints are the Israelites. This is still always the theme of the Bible, talking about the Israelites. And so Paul says, according as he hath chosen us in him, talking about the Most High, before the foundation of the world, before the world was formed, the Lord had chosen the children of Israel. Ain't that what we read in 2nd Ezra? Well, here we are in the New Testament reading it again, because it's the common theme of the Bible that this thing is only for the children of Israel. And this is a part of that predestination. He chose us in him before the foundation of the world. He knew what group of people he was going to create to become his chosen people, his chosen seed line. All right, go ahead.
That we should be holy.
That term holy is not your Christian term holy, like holy, 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 Lord God Almighty. No, holy means separate. That's what that term means. It's kodash in the Hebrew, right. Separate. That we should be holy. The Lord created us to be separate from everybody else. And that's all throughout the Bible. Deuteronomy, the 7th chapter, talks about that.
Right. And
all throughout the Bible, we can see that the Lord created us to be separate from all the other nations. Keep reading.
And without blame.
And without blame. Why are we the only nation that has to be without blame? Why do the other nations get away with everything? Amos, the 3rd chapter, explains it. Give me that real quick. Give me Amos, the 3rd chapter, real quick, and we'll just read this one quick. You can just read it out loud so everybody can hear it. Amos 3:1 explains why we're the only nation, right, that has to be without blame before the Most High. Give me Amos 3:1.
Book of Amos, chapter 3, and verse 1. Hear this word that the Lord has spoken against you, O children of Israel.
Now, this is what the Most High spoken to the children of Israel. Right? This is who this is talking to. Go ahead.
Against the whole family, which I brought up from the land of Egypt, saying, you only have I known.
The Lord is saying, you only have I known. He's talking to the children of Israel. He said, you only have I known. Go ahead.
Of all the families of the earth.
Of all the families of the earth. Once again, it's that common theme we can continually see in the Bible. You only have I known. Right? Go ahead.
Therefore, I will punish you for all your iniquities.
So the Most High said, because he only knows us, he's going to punish us for all our iniquities. This is why you see the other nations, they can do whatever they want, but as soon as a black and Hispanic man does it, we get locked up.
Right.
You understand? Listen, America was built off of gangbangers. And I'm not talking about black or Hispanic people. I'm talking about the Irish. I'm talking about the Italian mobs. I'm talking about all of the people from the late 1800s and early 1900s. All of those white people that was coming over here, immigrants, they was gangbangers. They was members of the mafia that was shooting at police cars. You understand? Money laundering, extorting, committing all types of murders and all types of heinous crimes. Black people wasn't doing that. We were still locked up in chains. Right. Sharecropping. You understand? We couldn't get a fair shake. The white man is the original criminal in America, but they got away with it. Al Capone is celebrated. You understand? Right. Like all of these people that you see, like even the Irish mob, right? Y'all know anything about the history of the police force in America? It started because of the Irish mob, because the Irish immigrants that would come over here, they formed a mafia or a mob, whatever you want to call it. I just call it a gang, a bunch of thugs, right? And they were so terrible in their communities out in the East Coast and the Midwest that they had to, the United States government had to give them something to do. What they ended up giving them was the police force, because these people were so, involved in crime and just, they was going on killing sprees. The United States government gave the Irish mob a task at being the first police officers. You can look that up. All right. That's why initially, what do they call a police officer now? A cop. They call them pigs too, but a cop. Where does that term cop come from? Comes from the word copper, right? And that goes all the way back to the Irish mob, because when you go back into, matter of fact, look up the term paddy wagon. Say, you ain't got to look it up. I'm just saying on your own time. The term paddy wagon, that comes from an old, people would call a police car. Some people still call it that today because of St. Patrick. All of these terms that you find, most of these terms that you find associated with the police force in America actually come from old Irish sayings. You understand? The copper being for good luck and all of that. Anyway, here's my point. Those were the original criminals in America, and they got away with it. Like I said, they got away with it so much that they gave them the police force for it. Fast forward 40, 50, 60, 70 years after that, and blacks and Hispanics try to commit the same types of crimes. In the 60s, we come up with the Crips and with the Bloods. 70s, we come out with the Gangster Disciples and the Vice Lords, right? All of these different gang organizations, all of them get shut down. Everybody in jail. Larry Hoover, prison. David Barksdale, dead. You understand? Black Panther Party fell. Why? Because of the illegal things that they thought they could get away with. They thought they could get away with the drug operations that they was involved in, because white people did. They had those organizations and they was pushing drugs to those organizations, so we should be able to do it too, right? No. Here's why. Because the Lord said he only knows the children of Israel, and because he only knows us, he's only going to punish us for our iniquity. I'll give you the perfect example or the perfect analogy for that. All right? Anybody that grew up in their house with a father, or maybe your mother did this, right? Let's say you was at school, or maybe you was outside playing, right? And you and a bunch of other kids got in trouble for something. Let's say, I don't know, what do kids get in trouble for now? I don't know. It broke a window. So he was hanging out with this group of kids, and You broke a window, right? And let's say somebody at school catch you, maybe a principal, teacher, something like that, or police, whatever. They take y'all all home. You know, you just kids, so you ain't doing no time for it or nothing like that. You know, a little slap on the wrist, take you home, tell your parents about it. Now, your mama or your dad whoop your ass. I mean, tear your butt up because you did something that was wrong, and that goes against their rules. You don't break other people's property. So you're getting towed up, right? You talk to your friends the next day. All of your friends got taken home in a cop car. Their parents got told about it and everything. But none of them got in trouble. None of them got in trouble. They on the Xbox the next day, right? Now you go back home to your mother and father and say, why did I have to get my ass whooped so bad for breaking that window when all of the rest of my friends that was there, they went home and they didn't get in trouble at all? What's your mother or your father going to tell you?
They ain't my kids.
They not my kids, but you are. I'm not going to go into their household and whip their tail because they did something. That's up to their parents. But I'm your parent. So I'm going to correct you because you're my son. You're my daughter. Well, that's the way the Most High looks at it. The other nations are not the Most High's children. So they go and they worship all of the other gods. They don't have a law that says that they can't worship idols. So they can go and be in that Arab religion, the Christian religion. They can go and follow voodoo and whatever, Hinduism. A lot of these cats is turning into Buddhists now, whatever. They can go do whatever the hell they want because they wasn't given that law, but we were. So if we break that rule, the Lord is going to punish us for it. I just wanted everybody to understand it. So, all right. Take me back. Matter of fact, let's do this. Let's do this because we pressed for time. We're going to close out in just a minute. Let me see. Okay. Yeah, let's do this. Let's go into the Apocrypha, Ecclesiasticus, the 44th chapter. We'll read this quickly and then we'll close out. Yeah, Ecclesiasticus and the Apocrypha in the 44th chapter.
What verse is it?
Begin at verse 19.
This is the book of Ecclesiasticus in the Apocrypha, chapter 44, verse 19. Abraham was a great father of many people. In glory was there none like unto him.
Right. Abraham was the father of many people. Understand that, right? The Lord, one of the promises that the Lord made to Abraham was this: you'll be a father of many nations. And he is. He's a father of many nations, right? Let's keep reading. And in it says, and in glory there was none like unto him. There's never been nobody like Abraham. Abraham was a friend of the Most High. Think about that. Think about that title, right? Abraham was a friend to the Most High God, right? Keep reading verse 20.
Verse 20. Who kept the law of the Most High and was in covenant with him. He established the covenant in his flesh. And when he was proved, he was found faithful.
And it's a lot we can learn from Abraham, especially that. When he was proved, he was found faithful. The Lord will test you. The Lord will absolutely test you to see if you're going to do what he wants you to do. Otherwise, he'll pick somebody else, right? But when he was tested, he was found faithful. Give me verse 21.
Verse 21. Therefore, he assured them by an oath that he would bless the nations in his seed, and that he would multiply him as the dust of the earth, and exalt his seed as the stars, and cause them to inherit from sea to sea, and from the river unto the uttermost part of the land. With Isaac did he establish likewise for Abraham, his father's sake, the blessing of all men in the covenant. It made it rest upon his head, upon the head of Jacob. He acknowledged him in his blessing, and gave him inheritance, and divided his portion among the 12 tribes did he part them.
And that's the conclusion of the matter. Understand that that's the way that it was always designed to be. It was always designed to be just like what we just read. The Lord picked Abraham, skipped Ishmael, gave it right to Isaac, right? And down from Isaac, skipped Esau and gave it right to Jacob. And down from Jacob down to those 12 tribes of Israel that we find today. That's the important thing that we have to remember from this lesson. Understand, predestination is a topic we could talk about all the time, because there's a lot of things that have been predestinated in the Bible, but the most important thing that has been predestinated is the fact that Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans are the children of Israel. They are the chosen seed of the Most High, and they're the ones that are going to inherit the earth.
Right.
All right. With that being said, I'm going to go ahead and close out. So, like I said, you got the security announcement? You know that? That there? All right, with that, I'm going to pass the class over to Police Officer Matazar.
ISUPK security announcements. We're the ISUPK started at 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York. Rule for a new brother and sister. When a new brother or sister comes into the school, they are off limits for 6 months. They are to be saluted only. They are here to shed themselves of the world. If they need transportation, the teacher will arrange it. After 6 months, if a brother or sister has an interest in a particular person, he or she must get permission from the head to speak to a brother or sister. There's another 6 months in which the brother and sister will court each other. After this 6 months period, brother and sister will get permission from the head to marry, besides which is the commandment. Book of Numbers, chapter 18, verse 21. You can also find this in the book of Malachi, chapter 3, verse 8 through 10. Ma'ashra means 10th in the Hebrew, 10% of every penny of any increase the Lord gives you. Give to the treasury department or teacher, priest funds, free will offering for peace, not mandatory, whatsoever amount you would like. Upcoming holy convocation, which is the closing, right?
Yeah. Closing of the Feast of Tabernacles tomorrow night.
Tomorrow is the closing of the Feast of Tabernacle. Reminder, like if anyone wants to be a trooper in the school, to start wearing all black boots, shirts, pants, headband, and scarf. And with that, we're going to do one courtesy salute to the teacher. So, men of Israel, Majum, which means to stand. Men of Israel, Majum Shabbat, Majum, Barak, Yahweh Hashem Yahushua Barakatah. Yahweh Hashem Yahushua Barakatah. Jadi Matah,